Samozwańczo pozwolę sobie, szanowni państwo, zacząć.
Let me begin our second panel, and will be concise and precise and synthetic, but definitely there will be some emotions. Our next panel concerns space, school space, which sounds a little bit metaphorically, but I think we're going to talk about tangible space, environments where we are in school. We have several guests here on this panel, very happy, smiling people, and very emotionally energetic. So you'll see it's going to be an interesting panel, and they have a lot to say. So let me introduce our speakers today, as I have them here sitting. So next to me we have Agnieszka Czachowska, who is an architect. She is an architect that has a construction permit as well, which is very, very important, and it makes a difference because she is an independent architect. She can design and make decisions. She also has a lot of experience as a teacher, coach, as a propagator of sustainable construction principles. So as an architect, engineer, she also deals with teaching and education, and she thinks there is space in this education involved. She has been a part of numerous projects, and the list is very, very long. And first of all, she's an expert on this panel. So through her research and conclusions and her knowledge and expertise, she has come up with recommendations she's going to present today. Welcome, everybody. Our next guest is Good Luck Elizabeth Finsdottir. I hope I pronounced it the right way. You already know. 20 years of experience as a teacher and administrator of educational institutions in Iceland. A long bio as well. So I'm going to abbreviate it to the most important issues. So her competences and her interests involve and challenges involve the well-being of students, safe childhood, and creative work at school. So something that has already been mentioned here at this conference. So what we are interested in. Welcome. Then we have Hrefne Bjørnsdottir, wrong pronunciation. I've been doing my best. I'll be practicing to make fewer mistakes. She is also from Elizabeth schools, and she deals with support for teachers. And we already had this idea mentioned that teachers also need support and developing of our competences, and there are opportunities, psychological opportunities to bear all kinds of problems that we've discussed. So, as I was part of this previous panel, I had this notion, and I wanted to ask, do you ever sleep? So many duties, so many chores. It's incredible. So our speaker here deals with support of teachers in those difficult roles. She also analyzes feedback, so she deals with dialogue between all parties involved. And what I actually got from her biography is Montessori pedagogy. So her interests involve that, which is very inspiring for me. Welcome warmly on this panel. Then
Mamy panią doktor psychologii.
we have a doctor of psychology, Barbara Ostrowska, who is a teacher in Paderewski International High School in Lublin. She's also a coach, examinator. She is also one of the organizers of IB in Poland and in Lublin. She takes part in all kinds of projects and programs. She is an educator and expert in numerous programs. Let me mention one here that is particularly interesting for the purpose of this panel. Novigado, active learning, innovative teaching in a flexible educational environment. We know we need to be flexible, cunning, smart. So that's us. And this program is part of the Erasmus Plus program. Welcome and welcome to the discussion. Our next speaker is Iwona Pietrzak-Płachta, who is also a teacher of the year 2022. She works in the library. So she is a teacher and a librarian. So she has the approach to students from a different perspective, and her possibilities are different in this way. I know her bio. I memorized her bio because she has created the initiative that's called the Loan or Wings Borrowing Center. So she is actually giving wings to children. So we'll see what she's going to talk about the space where she puts those wings on students. And last but not least, Alina Januszczyk. She is the president of a foundation Beetle related to the House of Words Center in Lublin. So she may have been in the panel on communication, words, but space can also communicate. Space talks to us. We also receive all kinds of stimuli from space. Alina is also the creator of a courtyard or backyard of imagination and all the other projects of this type that are unusual, exceptional, and as she herself said, she approaches them as a teacher, but can also share a different perspective. Welcome. And let me introduce myself. My name is Małgorzata Michalska-Nakonieczna. I'm the author of the Interior Design Department at the University College of Enterprise and Administration. It was a privilege to create my own department and subjects and curriculum. And I did it as, the curriculum of my dreams, focusing on the competences and skills that I wanted my students to learn throughout the time of studies. And referring to the topic of our panel, when I was thinking how to create this curriculum for a person who's going to design space as a graduate, right? Space for life of a human being, I decided that the motto should be design the space in which everybody will have an opportunity to be the best version of ourselves. So supportive space that co-acts, that is comfortable, that doesn't disturb, but supports. And then I started to think, okay, how do I do it? And I thought that a good illustration of this process would be a medical process. So we have a patient who comes over to us and says, I want you to design me a living room but
Mam pewne na to pomysły,
I have some ideas in
ale on
mind.
nie jest specjalistą. I
But I'm
wtedy
not an
wchodzi
expert,
tutaj
so
do
help
gry
me out with
specjalista,
that. So
który
here's
poprzez
where the
rozmowę,
experts
z tym
enter the
pacjentem,
picture
klientem,
through the dialogue with this
który
patient,
poprzez,
customer.
dochodzenie
An
na
expert
podstawie pytań,
who
na podstawie
asks
obserwacji,
questions,
analizy
who
tego, w
makes
jaki sposób
observations,
ten klient żyje,
analyzes,
jakie ma
for example, the
potrzeby,
way the
jakie
customer
ma
lives, their
kompetencje,
needs,
stawia
competences,
diagnozę.
and then
Ta
puts forward a
diagnoza jest
diagnosis.
podstawą później
This
do
diagnosis
znalezienia,
is going to be the foundation
sposobów zaradzenia
to
jego
find
problemom
solutions to
albo
their
wspomagania
problems
jego,
or to
aktywności
support
życiowej,
their
czy
life activities and their
zaspokojenia
needs.
jego potrzeb. Także
So
wydaje mi się, że to jest kluczem
I think
do
it's a
zaprojektowania
key
dobrej
to
przestrzeni.
design good
I od
space.
tego specjalistką jest Agnieszka.
And
która
Agnieszka
zaraz nam o tym
is a
powie.
specialist
Natomiast też,
and expert
mam wrażenie,
on
że po
that,
tym
and she's
wszystkim,
going to
co na
talk
tej
about it.
konferencji już tutaj wybrzmiało,
Apart from that,
też,
I think
należy
that
dobrze ustalić,
we also
proporcje.
need to
Powiedzmy
determine
sobie szczerze, w szkole
proportions.
najważniejsze są relacje.
At school,
I
the
to,
most
co
important
tutaj
part
zostało
are
powiedziane,
relationships,
to jasno
which
wskazuje
was
na to,
already
że tak
spelled
naprawdę
out here.
to wszystko może się odbywać w najuboższej,
Everything can happen
bez
in the
wyposażenia przestrzeni.
poorest
Jeśli
space
jest dobra
without
relacja
equipment.
nauczyciel,
If we
uczeń,
had
jeśli
good
są dobre
relationships
relacje w
between
grupie,
teachers
to może to
and
być w białym
students or
pokoju,
among students, it
bez
can be
okien
in a
robione, i tak
simple
będzie
white
dobre.
room
Pytanie
and it's
teraz
still
w takim
going
razie,
to be
czy w ogóle
good.
warto o tej przestrzeni
So the question arises, do we need to talk about space? And I think yes. If this space can support us in our efforts, and if it's not disturbing us, or if it doesn't disturb us, if it becomes the supportive element, factor that supports the process of education. So now, let me give the microphone to Agnieszka and let's talk about your research and the diagnosis that you have come up with and what kind of medicine you have defined. Thank you very much. There it is. I wanted to talk about space and recommendations based on the project, but I'm not the only sole author of those recommendations because we had representatives from 5 Lublin schools, but I would want to ask those people to stand up: Katarzyna, Agnieszka, Katarzyna, Jarosław, and Monika from individual schools. These are all our participants. This was my team, space team. And we have come up with recommendations owing to this cooperation. I wanted to start my presentation with a quote that you don't need to be an expert in architecture, but you can't ignore it. Everybody is influenced by it. Winston Churchill said that the first time we shape the buildings and then the buildings shape us. So what you mentioned at the beginning, relationships are most important, but the space influences us in one way or another. Sometimes we are even unaware how it can actually influence us. In some spaces we'll feel calmer, in others we will feel much more nervous. So space influences us, period. The goal of those recommendations was to present, those recommendations for planning space in educational institutions to support social competences and their development. We also have a chapter on how to conduct this change and how to implement it. In those recommendations, you'll also find methods, tools, stages, inspirations, and the projects that appeared within the framework of our cooperation. How were the recommendations created? First, we had diagnosis in all 5 schools. So just like a medical diagnosis, we need to check what's going on, what's the status quo, what's the situation, what is functioning well, and what disturbs us, what doesn't support us, what doesn't help us. In those schools, we found all kinds of different things that can disturb people. For example, the sunlight, the heat, noise. Sometimes, with the environment right outside of a school. Sometimes, it was the question of stimuli, too many stimuli, also including colors. But we also found out a lot of positive ideas. But certain, for example, attempts of changing the space have been already undertaken, and they are going in the right direction. So the school does not look like the schools from the times we remember. So this was very, very important for me. I wanted to emphasize the fact that there is always space for change and improvement, but at the same time, a lot of good things have been happening already. When we have identified the spaces for change, we've conducted consultations in schools. They were conducted by our team members. We collected opinions of students, teachers, parents, and faculty and staff members, which was a very important stage when we designed such change. Then, a huge input was good practices from Iceland, based on study visits that the teachers took part in. They were thrilled with what they saw in Iceland, and they decided that they want to implement many things from Iceland into their schools. And in those recommendations, we'll have a lot of inspirations, so feel free to get familiar with them. They visited 2 schools, Dalskala School and Vesturbayarskoli School. Afterwards, we went to the subsequent stage, designing, made-to-measure design, concepts for changing a selected space. They were much more concrete than the previous stages, and they were created for each school separately, individually, because these were solutions for individual spaces identified in each school. And the chapter on recommendations, how to start it, what to take note of, what to focus on, and as in the process of design, we have those 3 stages of change project implementation, and the same is true about here. So concept and design phase, when we think what we want to do and how to do it. Implementation phase, so implementing the change, and then use phase. As far as the first stage of design is concerned, it's important to conduct diagnosis and determine the needs of users. In my area, in my field, the process of consultation, social consultations and participation. So the changes should be implemented in a participatory way. It is much more frequently used than it used to be. It's been changing for years, and the more architects nowadays are ready for such consultations and to accept recommendations that drive from those consultations. I've been always doing it that way because I assume that no one is such a good expert on space than those who use this space. I, as an outsider, no matter what my education is and expertise is, I don't spend that much time in that space as the users of the space. I don't work, operate, function in this space as the users of the space. So it's worth asking them what needs they have, what they like about the space, and what they dislike about the space. It's also important to get inspired by good practices and consult solutions in larger environments. If we have any doubts whether such a concept will work out or not, we have prototype of selected solutions. This stage means using an unready device or design or the space, like for example, changing the color of the walls without using or implementing expensive solutions. So in this prototype, we can, for example, use the couch that we already have in school, put it in the room and see what it's going to look like, right? We don't need to buy those new things, furniture, equipment, but we may figure out whether it's going to function, work out or not, with no costs. We may also decide then maybe something should be changed. It may stay for a while, such a made-do solution with some already existing furniture, etc., and try to figure out how it's going to function. Oftentimes, the finances are not big, so it's worth, to look for subsidies and sponsors so that this change of space will be holistic, so that it's not a temporary stage, transitional stage, but with those additional funds to change it for good. Since we live in the times of climatic crises, it's worth to find solutions that are eco-friendly, environmentally friendly. We may use things that are recycled, restored. We need to remember that these things should be durable. While designing, what's also important are inclusive solutions. We need to remember about different needs of different groups that use the space. People with disabilities, for example, or with different challenges they have about staying in a particular space. So, at the stage of implementation, we need to remember that these solutions should be aesthetically pleasing and easy to clean, because it influences the usage of a certain space. Furthermore, we need to check solutions against applicable standards and regulations. I have had a situation when the principal, for example, does not agree to certain types of furniture that don't have certificates because, there may be problems with official institutions that will later on control the space. We should invite them to cooperate and we should talk about possible solutions. We should talk to administration and officers. And finally, we should involve the school community in carrying out some of the work, particularly these types of activities that are safe for children, because that means that they are part of a change. They feel that they are responsible for this change. And therefore, later on, when they use this space, they're also going to respect it. What happens after the implementation? Celebrate. Celebrate new change, celebrate transformations. It's the element that, I think that, like in any case, in life, when we get something new or achieve some success, we need to celebrate. That's also true about the change in space. We also should think, for example, together with students, about the rules and regulations, how to use this new space so that it can serve everybody for a long time. And the final part, check, monitor how the new space functions and whether our solutions are working out. Recommendations will be available on the website of the municipal office in Lublin, so feel free to get familiar with them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think there will be a lot of questions to you, but maybe let's leave the questions for the second part of our debate. What you said is, first of all, some things that we know should exist, but what's most important for me is that, to involve students is this important thing, because nowadays we have tendency to exclude students from the processes in school. I'm a mother of an 18-year-old and 13-year-old, so 2 exams this year. I therefore, help them out in learning, in studying for those exams, and I note that my children are being excluded from all kinds of activities, like organizing the space in which they work, but also, for example, the space for all kinds of celebrations, like the end of school balls, parties. And I'm really surprised. It's a very good school in terms of organizations, teamwork, and the students are being excluded from that. Now, let me move on to our next speakers. No, okay, let's start with our guests. I wanted to ask you about your Icelandic experience with space, whether you think in your school this space plays a role in this educational process.
Yes, we think it's very important that all the community, all the school community is taking part in this. When we are designing our space, we always think of the well-being of the child and the users. The childs, they know best how to be child, and we ask them. And we get them and ask them how they want to use the space and how it is for their studies. We ask the parents also. We have this committee that maybe meets every 6 weeks or so, where we have children. We have administrators and teachers and students and parents, where we talk about the school and how we want to have it. And we have this same understanding of the school. And it's very important to talk about it, so the parent understand how it works. Like when we were designing our schoolyard, we had this also. We had these special meetings with architects and teachers, parents, students to talk about what they wanted, and we asked all of the kids in our school what they wanted to have on the schoolyard, and they wanted swimming pools. And they wanted big castles and roller coasters and stuff like that, but also they wanted swings and small castles, and they wanted trampoline, yeah. And we got that, and we have basketball courses and we have football courses. And that's very important for us because 2 times, 3 times a day, all of our students, all of our kids go outside to play. And that's very important for these social competencies. They are all together, mixed ages, playing together, having conversations, getting into a fight. We help them. They get into an argument, and we help them with that. But it's very important that they have these influences on the spaces. We also, I think it's very important that what they are learning, we can see that in the school. They get an opportunity to talk about what they're learning, displaying their arts in the walls. And they have learned to respect the arts. They display their paintings and maybe clay works or woodworks and so on. And they look at it and they respect it, they discuss about it, and it's part of who we are.
Czyli to jest taka przestrzeń,
So this is the space that I dream about, that in the process becomes a space where you can realize all that students dream of and the teachers want. So the space supporting space that is the space for development in brief, right? Which is very, very inspiring. Our second speaker, I wanted to ask you how the space supports teachers, because we talk about students, their needs, they are very, very important, right? And we oftentimes forget about teachers, and teachers work in this space. And they work in a very specific way, with emotions, with a personal involvement, oftentimes being, threatened with burnout, and whether this space can actually support teachers in their process of pedagogical processes, but also in their personal needs. What do you think?
Well, I think the school is built around communication. The whole planning of the school is communication. We have this open doors between classrooms, so the teacher is never alone. And we also have this team teaching, so the teachers really support each other, and that is also in the space. In every classroom, we have this home corner. That is also about communication. So the teacher also has many opportunity during the day to communicate with the children as a group or as an individual. I would like to think that the school is, pretty, and that the person who's working there feels good about the school, is proud of the school. So that is also for your mental health very important. But I think nowadays the team teaching is the key component for this support. And besides that, the administration is also a support, and we move around quite freely, and the children outside are working outside the classroom, and then the other teachers of the school is also responsible for that child. It's not like that, I'm the teacher, this is my child. The whole school is responsible. We are helping each other.
Czyli jednak relacje, widzicie Państwo.
So it's all about relations. School as a space which is supportive. And as regards technical solutions, well, it's easy to say, let's design a space that supports good relations. But how do we do this? What's the best way? And I think it's designers' work to a large extent to provide some ideas, because designers, architects, they should know solutions. They were taught to design. We don't have to know, we don't have to be experts as parents or teachers in what's the best material to finish your walls, or how to build a floor, how to provide ventilation or lighting. We don't know it. Sometimes we don't know why very intense lighting gets on our nerves, or there is a bulb which is blinking and it makes us get headache. So we don't know it. We are not experts. I can see some people here are nodding. You know it from life, you know it from school. Sometimes the interior gets on our nerves and we don't know why. So still we struggle, of course, we struggle with these design issues in our schools. So let's now have the perspective of a high school, and Barbara, she, I believe, has many ideas, of course, based on her experience as a high school teacher. The high school, which is very popular and quite renowned in Lublin. I wouldn't say it's renowned, come on. Yes, I'm just saying it as a regular citizen of Lublin and what people think about your school. So please share your ideas about how space can support competence building, because we talk about relations, we talk about emotions. This is very important, but don't forget that the school is supposed to teach, is supposed to give you hard skills, multiply, how to do chemistry, how to speak a foreign language. So how does space support that? Well, first, I would not agree. School is not supposed to teach hard skills, rather soft skills. Hard skills are not very necessary in our world these days, because you can find everything online, you can find answers everywhere else. Soft skills, soft stuff is what is a priority. And school should, in a sense, reflect our teaching approach that we have adopted. Yesterday we spoke about this constructivist or behavioral approach in our relationship panel. So our school very often goes for the former. I mean, we said we arrange desks in class so that the teacher is in the center of it, as a lecturer, as instructor. We remember schools from our childhood where tables or desks were screwed to the floor and we were not able to move them. So there's a different approach in this space. The space that we have designed, we believe, communicates the way we teach. And for me, this space should support competence building. If we say that teamwork or communication are relevant, we should give students opportunities to communicate and cooperate. They should have space where they can do it. If they are sitting with their backs to each other, or they can only see the back of a mate in front of him or her, there is no way to communicate in such a setup. So the school or class should be flexible enough to adapt different or accommodate different kinds of work. Sometimes you do some workshop, sometimes it's more of a lecture. So the class should be flexible to accommodate all possible solutions. So anyway, this space should help us work differently if we choose so as teachers. So it's all up to the teacher or the head teacher what kind of approach we adopt and what we really want from this space, how we want to teach. what we want the young people to get ready for. If we just teach them to get ready for an exam, well, this space can be just anything. But if we teach young people how to communicate, how to cooperate, how to give feedback, how to do research, this space should be conducive to that.
No dzięki, bardzo fajna wypowiedź.
Well, thank you very much for your insights.
Ja powiem trochę pod prąd. Ja jestem rodzicem.
I'm a parent, I'm a mother in the first place, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm listening to you, this is really at the very end of the list of what is needed at school. My children learn to get the right scoring in the final exams or school living exams. They learn to pass the test. And you don't need any other competences to do that. Well, we have the test, we have the key, and the student must pass it, so what you're talking about is a school of dreams for me. So that's why perhaps they call your school outstanding, very exceptional, because you attach so much attention to this. Well, I'm not, if this is surprising, what I'm going to say, but when we focus on competences, the results are there. It's not contradictory. When you teach a student how to reach solutions, how to find ways, they will be able to handle any problem during an exam. So I'm not afraid we will not fit the system. Of course, it needs the teacher to be bold enough, to be open, to let themselves go sometimes. And, well, if you let it go at elementary school or high school, it's much more demanding, of course, than at university. This is what I did in my teaching at university, and I only have 2 grades in my course. It's 2 bad and 5, which is good. If someone makes progress, if someone does something positive, they get 5. If not, they get 2. But, well, it's a private university, so I'm comfortable enough to do it because it's a private institution. But as a mother, having a child at a public school, I have to fight for that. And what you said perhaps links very well to what our dear librarian is going to say in a moment. So going from hard skills or hard competence to library, and that our schools require high concentration and prioritize tasks in class. When the teacher is writing on the whiteboard or blackboard, the child must be focused. Do you remember how long a child may focus during a class? How many minutes? Probably it's minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. This is how long a child can focus during a class. An adult can focus 18 minutes. If you look at TEDx speeches on YouTube, it's usually 18 minutes because this is the time an adult can focus. So let alone children. So concentration and what happens at school, it's a huge effort for a child. I know it from my own children. But you, Iwona, you have created this space that helps children respite and rest. Yeah, well, let me start with a small remark. I came here yesterday, and again, we are not, as people, we are not the total of all the experiences of the people we met. Yesterday, I started to learn from you. I experienced many emotions, and yesterday when I was listening to how Iceland started to develop their new educational policy in 2017. Someone said that you asked what children should know, what children should learn, and what to do to make children fulfill their dreams. That's what stuck to my mind. And it's for them, but also for the community in which they grow. And in Polish school, we speak so little about dreams, and we don't ask children about their dreams. And education is children's dreams combined with the dreams of those who design education. Because those who have some idea how education can work, this is relevant. So I thought about myself, I think I'm in the right place, because my library, what we call Wings Borrowing Center, started with a dream. A dream in my head, and that dream was so strong that I somehow was able to accumulate enough energy to make it happen. And so we started, and we keep growing. Let me first explain what this library is. It's just a school library. Why do we call it a wing borrowing? Books are the wings that children can have to fly, to do more, to do better. And literature is something that lets you fly. I wanted to teach my school children literature. I wanted to show them that between the book covers, they are beautiful stories. And when you approach a book on a shelf, I give them the book, I give them the wings to fly towards that story, to fly in that world. Okay, sorry, I like metaphors, and I'm a big metaphor as a woman, so I will give you more. Another metaphor involving wings is that library is also a place which blows the wind into the wings of children's potentials. We keep repeating that children have talent. We have to discover it. We have to, or the child should find someone to help discover this talent, like a little diamond that is found and needs to be processed to shine. So I thought of the library as a place where you can, of course, borrow a book, but also find something that cannot be found anywhere else in school. So this library has just a regular door, but if you open this door, you enter a world that takes care of a child's well-being, where the child is safe and happy, and we can approach the child and offer them the best we have, which is books full of stories, knowledge, competences, useful thoughts. And these books, I speak about these books as plasters, or something that will cover your wound or cover your worries if you are unhappy. And this library is also a response to some shortcomings of the Polish school. The Polish school of today is rushing forward. Teachers always rushing from class to the break, from break to class, and then perhaps to another school for another job, and perhaps for one-to-one classes in the evening. So people are constantly in motion. And the school library is, in the first place, something where librarians work, and they have a different number of hours of work a week, so we have more time for kids. We work at least 30 hours a week. And this library we perceive as an asylum for child. Asylum within the school which has so many stimuli. Look at our schools. We have all these colorful information boards of different quality. We have very loud bells at school, a lot of noise in the corridor, and we have many students who are very sensitive. And these people, these young people, they feel pain of being at school. They feel pain of noise, of chaos, of disorder. They have nowhere to hide. They have nowhere to go. That's why the library. And we also relied on some research by Professor Nalaskowski, who studied school spaces. He surveyed students where they are more willing to spend time at school. When I read this research, that really gave me goosebumps, because the children were pointing to toilets, to some strange corners, or to the football field, or sometimes class when the teacher allows that. So what's the conclusion? The kids have nowhere to be at school. So I thought to myself, what the hell? Perhaps library can be a solution. So I came with the idea of creating this place. And I invented that metaphor of wings, of blowing the wind in wings, wings that would help them fly to discover their potential. And back then, I didn't even know perhaps how to do certain things. I relied on my intuitions, on my own insights. And children see colors in a more intense way than adults do. So when they are bombed with excessive colors, and if I had done a library with some fairy tale stories or figures on the walls, the children wouldn't have rested there. I didn't want to create a day room, but something that would be soothing, that would be relaxing, that would be comforting. Okay, I don't want to cut in, but my question is, because I think you have a presentation, so can we have a look inside? Sure, I will show you the library, but first I want to take you to the land of imagination. So please, everyone, imagine you open a normal door, and behind this door there is some world of wonders, and there is a very silent, chilling music. You never know where it comes from, because the loudspeakers are hidden somewhere. And this interior, if we may have a look at my presentation. So have a look inside. This is our school library. The place I spent 10,000 zlotys, about 2,000 euro, to fit it out. I knew that was not much at that time. I know that new public libraries, if you need to set up a new library, you need hundreds of thousands. I got 10,000 zlotys. First, I bought the wallpapers, some furniture. I wasn't able to buy certain things, so I did certain things on my own. These signs on the walls are made of old newspapers, just pasted to the wall with the glue. I collected some plants from a nearby lake, and some pieces of wood or logs to sit on. And now, as the school has grown a bit, we get about 7,000 zlotys a year for extra equipment of the school. It's not much, but we somehow manage. And this space is really beautiful. And this space is also a message. Space is a message, and this message says to the students, come in, feel safe. You don't have to do anything here, because you have so much to do at school that when you come here, you can completely relax. You don't even have to take a book out. Because sometimes we just go to a library and we actually don't know what book we want to borrow. We don't know all the books in the world, so the children can come in and just freely browse all the shelves and make their pick. We have a department for the smallest kids. We call it children's wings. The kids just can approach the shelf, can take a book, can open it, can smell it. They can put it away if they feel it's not the right one, but they have a real contact with the book. This is the favorite department of first to third graders. And the sign on the wall says, sit, read, be. And we also have a department for older kids. This is a more separate space because older kids want to be left alone sometimes. And they come sometimes a few people at the same time, and they are just there. They not always leave with a book, and I don't take offense. Sometimes they just come to sit on these seats, remain silent, and I don't ask why they have come. What do they need? Perhaps they want to come to talk about what is going on at school. And who knows, maybe tomorrow I can offer them a book if someone has a problem or wants to find a solution. I can offer a book, but not right away. I don't want to push anyone. So, and one more thing I wanted to show you, but first, please imagine, let's have a little game. Imagine there's a break at 10:30 at school. They open the door of the library and it's dark inside, but not completely dark, because the ceiling and walls are lit with some projectors that display different shades of red or green or blue, and you can hear birds singing, or an ocean, or some relaxing music, or some other friendly noise. And in the air you can smell candles that our girls at school make on their own. You have open fire in a library? Yes, I know, that sounds terrible, but I do it because I'm always there. I never leave this place. It's only 10 minutes. This break is only 10 minutes, and this is what I give the children. So the students themselves make these candles of different fragrance. When we come together, this is more or less what it looks like during this 10:30 break. And now listen to the music, smell it, enjoy what you can see. So I wondered whether this kind of break is necessary. And well, you know, there are so many kids that come that the space cannot contain everyone, because it's not a big library. But well, I felt I was doing something that they really, really needed. And sorry to keep you a bit longer but I want to say one more thing. The fact that I was awarded the title of the Teacher of the Year, it was a great honor last year. And I'm the first librarian who was nominated for the Teacher of the Year. But there's one more award that is much more important for me, because this library was also awarded a Janusz Korczak prize. And for someone who works with pupils, for young people, there is nothing more beautiful than a prize that is awarded to places where children are happy and to people thanks to whom children are happy. So I think this prize is confirmation that my idea for this place was a good idea, and it really blows into children's wings. And besides blowing in these wings, I believe, blow the wings of other librarians across the country, because I keep encouraging people across Poland to change their libraries to be more attractive places to be.
Ale ja jeszcze pytanie w takim razie, a jaka to jest szkoła, powiedz?
But one more question, what's the school? It's the school in Pliszczyn, 350 students, and I'm the only librarian. Yes, so I've been working there for 23 years. The Hoods of Silence, we have this silent zone, it's mobile. You can have this hood like a cocoon where you can sit, when there is too much for you, it's too loud, too much, too sad. You can use this cocoon, you can use this hood, and children can sit here and use those. So this is a place where you want to be and where you want to be part of. And that's the most beautiful part of it. Yes, we are all dreaming right now, but from the dream it all starts. So it all starts with dreams, and then you can implement it. I think there will be a lot of questions to you, but I want to move to Alina, who on a daily basis works in a very special space. So apart from the fact that she deals with exceptional things related to relations, words, art, culture, her space where she works is also exceptional. Do you think it influences the relationships that you establish with your partners?
Słuchajcie mnie. Na pewno tak.
Yes, but today I'm not going to talk on behalf of the House of Words. The House of Words Center is great. I invite you over there, but I'm here to talk about my activities that I've been conducting for 7 years, open school activities, and their aim is to build relationships through space. I think how I work at work in culture.
Sama też musiałam się tego uczyć i do tego dochodzić.
Influences, what I do. And my environment used to be difficult, socially difficult, right? And that meant that I knew I can't be someone, who will impose their will on others. That's the principle I have in mind when I conduct my activities. My activities in this way are to show that space has its meaning, and For me, literature is also important, and I'm really glad that you believe in books. They are also important for me, and I'm also glad that you are here. But as far as space is concerned, I'm trying to enter the space and change it, but I know it's not the most important thing. The space can be simple, but relations can be exceptional in that space. So at first we need to think that there is no space if there is no education and relationship at the beginning. That's a starting point. To build those spaces, I can be in a beautiful space and I can't take advantage of it. I can't be in a dirty, ugly space, malfunctioning space. But my imagination, my resources, so my resources can help me to draw others and inspire change. So this is what I'm trying to do in the Open School project. It's a participatory project that involves administration, teachers, parents, students, all the parties concerned. In each edition, it has a different form or level of implementation. Sometimes it works better, sometimes it works worse. This space can should support us. It shouldn't block us. And since I'm not at school on a daily basis, I sometimes enter school as a tourist, and it allows me to enter school with some surprise and interest. And the why question is the key question for me. So I come there and I ask question, why not? As a child, like a child. Why not? And sometimes people can't respond to that with some sane arguments. Why do you need to evoke all those regulations? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? So, as spaces are concerned, they are key factors. They can support students in inspiring them or maybe calming down, establishing new relationships or getting rest or expressing themselves. So, space can have all kinds of functions. There are some key functions that schools and specialist experts enumerate, but within the framework of this project, I was invited to conduct practical workshops, and I also recommended some transformations that require courage. So if decision makers does not trust that students need to hide from time to time, when they don't understand that students not always can be controlled. So we can't do it all the time. Therefore, those spaces to function properly should be used by students. So when I create those spaces, I'm afraid they are some kind of additions, extra things. And I sometimes ask questions whether students use those spaces. Do they use it? Do they like it? Do they go there? Because I don't want it to be, just an aesthetic thing, an addition, but it should be used. It should be an opportunity for students to be together. So space is key factor. And as it was already mentioned, I think Monika mentioned that space is not only architectural aspect. It's also sound, right? Things that are not were taken care of, like backyards, with the potential not being used. So when we talk about those nooks at school, or certain functions associated with certain spaces. If a certain space has a certain function, it can't be changed. Like the library should be only for borrowing books. We need to be much more flexible in that, in this approach to spaces. When we look at, our capacity, how many square meters we have, we may think what is needed for the students to feel good in this space, for teachers to feel good in this space. I think it's important what you mentioned in the context of participation and participatory elements of a subject. Something that is actually mentioned by all of us. I wanted us to argue a little bit, but apparently we all agree on this, that it's important to design the space, school space, from up to the bottom, right? We know better, we have money, we are experts, we'll design the space for you. I think what's necessary is participation of other parties, students. And to add to that, the process that took place yesterday at the workshop, Małgorzata came up with the idea that workshop groups should include different people, from students, parents, through teachers. And it turned out that those groups were really working well. They created great atmosphere, and the final product was great. But what was interesting for me was that I gave them a choice. It was 10 groups with 3 people each. I gave them a choice. Choose the space that you want to design. And all the people, so students, teachers, and parents, most of them chose relaxation space. For God's sakes, I thought they were going to, design halls, classrooms. There was one cloakroom, changing room, and I think it was due to the fact, the emotions that my presentation showed, with a meme that showed the space of Polish cloakroom, whether it's, a prison, panopticon. No, it's a cloakroom in Polish school. So the majority of the spaces to be designed were relaxation spaces. But it wasn't like a bed, but the place I can relax in. We all sit in chairs, right, at schools that are very uncomfortable next to the desks, which is unnatural for humans. And I think that, the furniture they designed was the furniture that allowed you to change your position. Beanbags, hammocks, they all designed that. What's the conclusion? We lack such spaces in our schools where you can relax, where you can get some rest, when you can recharge your batteries to learn, to study. That's my opinion as a mother. Alina. 2 words. It's important to consult. Sometimes it's impossible to do it with a large number of people. Sometimes, the numbers will be smaller. But democracy, it's not always the full-time democracy, because sometimes we would not reach a consensus, but it's important to have an expert. So, schools have art teachers who take care of this space, or maybe have an expert from the outside, and they can suggest certain changes. We don't need to, look for designers for big money, but even with little money, we can conduct it. My first transformation in one of the schools cost me 1,000 euros. So, tell us about this first transformation that you've implemented. The first one was in school number 19. It was after the reform, when the middle high school was actually changed, and there was a need to adjust. So, for example, the bathrooms had to be adjusted, because there were smaller children entering the school, and it turned out that there will be children, of 10 years of age that would need different toilets, etc. So, looking from this perspective, that we have a diverse community, I implemented those changes. So I changed the walls. I hate, this drawing, this line that we usually have in Polish schools that divides the wall into 2. I disregard it. I put, for example, pictures at a lower level so that the children can see those images. Because for me, it's important that the children can see it, understand it, and refer to that. If it's put higher up on the wall, it's important for a little child to see it. We had another activity and some funding, and we worked with a principal. Together with the help of volunteers, teachers, and parents, we implemented this activity. It was the adaptation of a fragment of a hall and the canteen, school canteen. The canteen changed. I don't have photos of that, but I can also find it, and if someone is interested, you may email me and I'll send it over to you. The canteen became more like a restaurant, so it looked nicer. It was much nicer to eat in such a place, because some of the school canteens look terrible. They look like in memes, like prisons. I wanted you to talk about concrete aspects. We know ideas, right? We all have ideas in mind, but you talk about concrete things. An expert knows them, right? But for example, you need to put some light switch at a lower level. The bathroom sink has to be at a lower level. The toilet should be smaller, because we will have little people there. Why is it important? Respect. This is what it's all about. We respect the student. By showing him or her, you're important to us. We want you to be self-reliant, to have dignity, for example, when you go to the bathroom. It's super important. This message sent to the students through space. So on the one hand, aesthetics, yes. It's aesthetic education that we all lack. But on the other hand, it's also about respect. And when someone feels respected, they also have their own dignity. And dignity is another keyword here. It's a buzzword, a keyword to open our Polish education. When do we have dignity? When they feel important, when they feel respected. And it's extraordinary. It seems we need so little, but it requires mental change. 2 sentences as a follow-up, and then I'll shut up. Dignity respect. And respect means asking a question, what do you need? And giving them this reliance. We blow the wind into their wings. I was not surprised by your words. What do students need? Because, I also work with students' self-government, and we took part in a project last year, School for Good, and we asked about spaces at school, and I was in each and every single one classroom in my school. I wanted to ask you, how did you know what they needed? So I designed a survey. I went to every single classroom in my school, and I asked the students that we really want you to feel really good in the space. Tell us what you need. And the survey showed two zones that were needed to be provided: silence and relaxation zones. Why this relaxation music? Why this silent zone? Because students felt there is too much noise in school. They needed a space where it would be quieter than in other parts of the school. And the second need, a moment for you, a moment, a space where they could sit, talk, not necessarily whispering. Because in my library, people talk. We do talk because it's the foundation of relations and communication, but we talk with respect to others who came over there to get some rest, and we are still learning, right? So the second zone, a moment for you, is a space where we have a hammock, a swing, a table where they can eat their lunchbox, where they can do some homework. There is also a palette with artificial grass where they can sit and talk, and big wings on the wall. And we created these wings together. So just as the title of our panel suggests, it's a nook or nooks. We're talking about nooks. From my parents' experience, my daughter, who went to school as a very energetic child, an artist, well developed socially, she went to school and it turned out that she hates the school. She's not going to go there. A few years, I drove her by force there. Fighting with her resentment, it was terrible for both of us. And I was analyzing what's wrong. The teachers were okay. The peers were okay, right? So what's going on that she doesn't want to go there? It took me ages to find out that it's too loud. She told me, "Mom, it's too loud. The light, my eyes hurt." So I went to all kinds of doctors, right, ophthalmologists. Her eyes hurt. The doctor said, "No, she's fine. She's healthy, right? She's okay." I have got stomach aches. 10 months, a year, she had stomach aches. We ruled out all kinds of worms, we did medical checkups. She was perfectly healthy. And then I realized, together with her, the light actually was conducive to that. It was too intense, just like here. Don't your eyes hurt? Don't your eyes hurt at school? We also have, those lights that are put at us, but we are stars. Some costs need to be paid. So she felt sick her eyes hurt. And it was stuffy. They don't open windows. Mom, I feel stuffy there. I can't breathe. A few years. Her attitude to school, her initial attitude that she loved, it all went down the drain. She loved some of the teachers, but she didn't love the school at all. So that answers the question whether space is important. Because oftentimes your efforts and your hard work go down the drain because the space in which you are works otherwise, right? The children are tired, they are physically tired, they are exhausted. So, I wanted to add up to what Ivona said. We talk about participation. What would happen if the survey was not designed by a teacher, but if it was designed together with students? There are different examples evoked here of space that was co-created by students. What if those spaces of relaxation, library, hall, bathroom was co-created with students? If they chose colors, let's say, which, doesn't influence that space that much, but they would feel that it's their space. I'm a proponent of such an idea that students have this feeling of being a part of this change. Not that, someone created the school journal and it's put up there, but they actually created that. So, for example, the Polish classroom with Nobel Prize winners, right? Boring. So they should be part of this change. Because it's not only developing the competencies of the students, but in addition to that, it provides teacher with an opportunity to refer to something that was done before, to create those bridges with the content that was already done. Let me interrupt for a second. You teach in high school. Where did you have your high school ball? It was in a hotel. Not at school. No more questions. For me, the biggest adventure, and I was born 1976, so 30 years ago, the biggest adventure with designing of social space at school was the end of high school ball, where we decorated the gym. So we decorated the gym on our own to prepare it for the ball, and then we had the space to eat food. So this was the idea, our project, our work. It's all gone. You buy those end of high school balls at restaurants. Since our panel is drawing to an end, I wanted to mention one more issue here. I'm addressing teachers right now with a question. Don't you think that, to a large extent, the problems we talk about, we discuss, problems with communication, competence, space, are the effects of the fact that Polish schools are huge? There is numerous people. You have 300 students. In my children's school, there is over 1,000 students, and there are bigger schools there. And the direction is to enlarge them. My experience as a historian of architecture, I've conducted research on the history of elementary school number 1 at Kunickiego Street. It's the building that was designed before the war by Tadeusz Witkowski, an architect. I have analyzed the history of the school and architectural history. In the archives, I found the design And trust me, I could not understand what it was about. It's one edifice, it's one building that's called in the title Twin School. Everything is double there. There are two spaces in one building, two principal rooms, headmaster's rooms, vice principal room. There is only one common gym, one floor with classrooms, the second floor with classrooms. There were also workshop classrooms there. And I understood it after the talk with my mom, who went there in 1950s. And it turned out that this twin school is the building for two schools. There were two schools there, school number 1 and school 16 in one room, two headmasters, two psychologists, etc., to set off faculty. Were they nuts? Why did they do this? It would be cheaper, to have one principal, one psychologist, one faculty team, huge number of students. They did it for quality of teaching, for quality of relations, so that the principal had 60, 80 students, not 100 or 1,500. Doesn't that influence relationships? So, a challenge to the architect. What's your experience in designing schools? In that context, number of students that are going to be in this school. I work in different schools, bigger, smaller ones. And in those smaller schools, the space is doable, workable, to put it colloquially. Something that you experience when you are in a city or in neighborhoods where the buildings are adjusted to the scale of human being than, for example, in a city center, like in Warsaw city center with skyscrapers, lots of glass, right? We feel different in such spaces. So the scale adjusted to our physicality is completely different in such spaces. We feel differently there. We feel safer in smaller spaces. Human scale, yes. So those huge schools, buildings, you can get lost there. They are not cozy. They don't give you this feeling of coziness, this feeling of security and this home-like atmosphere. And let me ask my friends from Iceland, because when I saw your statistics, as far as number of students are concerned in Reykjavik, how many students you have in schools, I think it's smaller numbers. Do you have such big schools where you have 1,500 students, or is it smaller schools? What does it look like?
I think the largest school has been around 1,200 students, but it has been split up. So in our school is around 300. We need more children. Our neighborhood is getting a little bit old. I think it's maybe 500-600. It's a good size, because you don't want to have it too small also.
Okej. No ale jednak nie 1,500.
But it's not 1,500, right? And the question to our second friend, how does it influence the teachers? Do you think that a teacher who works in elementary school, we have, for example, 10 8th grades, huge number of students, how does it influence the teachers? And whether this can be manageable through space, whether space can solve problems of a large number of students in an effective way. What do you think?
I think it's all about organization. I think you have to then find solution so you can maybe work it out. It's not like like we have been talking about, you don't have maybe the perfect situation, but you have to be creative about the solution with what you have. So I think that is the main key. Maybe, like as I said before, more teamwork, or so it would be better for the teacher and the children.
Teraz trochę wsadzę kij w mrowisko w takim razie. A jakie jest u was
And what's the number of hours that the teacher per week is required to work?
26 hours with the children, and then they are required to, prepare for the work and team meetings and support. So it's, I think, 42 point something during the week, but part of it they can work outside the school. So it's 26 lessons per week per teacher.
No właśnie.
Kosiu, ja mam takie pytanie jeszcze właściwie. Mam pytanie. Ja się zastanawiam trochę nad tym, bo mamy piękną konferencję.
I have a question because we have great buildings, upcoming changes, and what about city policy? We are building new schools, but in a way we build them the same way. Beautiful colors, a lot of technology, bigger and bigger. Some parents are happy because the children can go back to renewed or new school, but it's yet another big complex. Not always the entire premises are well taken care of. Of course, there is beautiful pitch or playground, not necessarily in the right place, sometimes too exposed to sunshine. So we have these schools and specialists who can design wonderful things for relatively small money. Why not at the decision-making level? There is a decision, there are limited budgets, and the schools that are built are the same as it used to be, the same layout of classes, desks, rooms, never consulted with the local community. So the teachers, students are like UFOs, traveling across this space freely, like free electrons. It's a question to you, everyone, because you live in this space, you work in this space. Well, so perhaps you should keep asking, you should keep pressing, because, well, you use these spaces. I know that there are great staff rooms where you can rest, when you can just restart your hard disk. And one more conclusion I have is parents pay for that. It's not, we don't have free education. We pay for this education with our taxes. And if in Iceland parents can participate in the design process of a school, let alone teacher, municipality or administration, I haven't heard about this in Poland. Why not? If my taxes are used to build new schools, why they build the way we don't want them to build? Well, it's a question to decision makers, but I'm just saying it in order to keep it in mind. Maybe we should approach them and tell them what to do. Well, it's perhaps all about educating civil servants who run procurement procedures. So maybe the procurement procedures should have certain criteria, certain conditions to be met. So perhaps we should have civil servants also in this room listening. Well, of course, and teaching teachers, instructing teachers, that's one thing, because teachers sometimes don't know what they can really do at school, what educational law allows. So there are all these safety and security measures, all the corners must be secured. the light can be on and off. There are many different and strange ways, not necessarily useful, and teachers are sometimes lost. And this fear of taking care of safety. When I want to do something creative at school, so the first counter-argument is there may be something bad happening because of that. And of course, the parents are sometimes frightened by the school that certain things, certain projects are not safe. Of course, safety is very important, but we are not robots. We don't have lasers to scan space. We can't see everything when we watch kids during the break, but we fail to see what's behind our back. So why do we ban children from hiding somewhere for a moment? Or if there is space, we don't let children go somewhere because there is no teacher watching this space. But come on, what about changing rooms before physical education? Children are alone in the changing room. Why don't we watch them? Ask me. Okay, someone pissed into my daughter's shoe once in such a situation. Okay, but it's a question of safety. If we have this space at school, let's figure out how to let students go there without watching them all the time. All right, but if there's one teacher watching the whole corridor and 120 children running and walking all directions, how can you manage that? You have to trust and let them be. In the previous panel, we spoke about that. Okay, changing rooms, of course there is intimacy, but it's not only changing clothes for physical education.
I just wanted to add to that. We had this crazy idea, Gulla and I, to let the whole school play hide and seek. So everybody should hide, also the teachers, and then, look. And then, yeah, it's a security matter maybe, but for 10-15 minutes, you could go anywhere in the school.
This is an idea exactly that came from the children. Yeah. We have this idea box, and they wanted to take this, and the teachers should be are looking for the students. So, and we are going to do that. We are planning to try this out. So, so we are listening to them, and they are going to, and they can go to the cafeteria and whatever.
Ja myślę, że w szkole to i nauczyciel powinien mieć taką przestrzeń.
I think also teachers should have this space at school to hide sometimes before students and other teachers. Well, maybe we have time for Q&A if there are questions to our designer, Agnieszka. She knows all the technical stuff. Maybe questions to our colleagues from Iceland who have a slightly different background and experience. Or maybe our creative teachers and librarians here. Go ahead. This time is for you.
I tak, i nie. Proszę Państwa, wiem, że już jakby długo tu siedzimy, będziemy zaraz...
I know we are, the time is up basically, but of course if there are questions we will take them, but just to comment. All the presentations you have seen will be published on the conference website. They will be available. Even though you didn't see them, you can have a look later on, and all these spaces that we were talking about, pictures from schools, they're all available in those presentations.
I to tyle. I jeszcze jedno słowo, że Państwo, którzy są dzisiaj na warsztatach trochę wcześniej, mają pierwszeństwo.
Those of you who take part in workshops can have lunch first before the others. The lunch is waiting, by the way. Sorry to take up some of your break, but this is really a very interesting panel. But when we close, I would also like to say a few words of thanks, so stay with us until the end of this talk. Yeah, I can see you are tired, so let's make it quick. We have a question. Speak to the microphone, please.
Ja też jestem mamą, rodzicem.
I'm a mother and teacher too, so my question is, what kind of support did you need to create such beautiful spaces? Because such big changes are not made on your own. You need some kind of participation, support, and I believe such spaces can be created in different places. So what steps do you take to start it? I think the first step is ourselves, it's the idea, the seed that needs to grow in your head. But, you know, you should expect questions like, why the hell do you do this? Or you will never do this, or you can't do this. And I had some arguments, because before that my library was very well known and we were awarded different prizes. We took part in different competitions for libraries from all over the country, not only school libraries, also public libraries. So my library took the third place, and the runner-up was the famous public library from Poznań, and another one from Wrocław. So that was the first success of ours, and I think maybe there was some fairy that came to my head and said, let's go ahead, let's have some funds raised. And of course, I had to be bold enough to go to the community leader and ask for public money. But then I just waited, I went to this leader and he greeted me at the door saying, I knew you would come. So you need people around you who trust your idea, who believe in your idea. Because I had my pockets and my head full of arguments, but I never actually used all these arguments. I came to that community leader and said, look, we had been doing really well so far. This library is doing great. Let's do something more. Let's take a step ahead. And he just said, okay, let's do it. So you need, of course, to be able to convince people, to win people to your idea, but you should basically have this courage and trust in yourself that you will be able to run it till the end. And of course, you need to have the buy-in of the school management, that the idea will benefit the whole school. Sometimes it's a question of one or the other person or decision, or, you know, there is this law of attraction. They say that if you find people who are like-minded, they can help you. Any more questions? I can walk with the mic towards you. Okay, as a parent, I have a comment as a parent. In my daughter's school, we came together. I mean, not we, actually, the parents before us. So once a year, we, before Christmas market, we create a special space. It's a cave for dwarves, and during before Easter time, we do another event, and this is when parents and children come to school. We arrange class into some mysterious or fairy cave or space, and many children come, wait in line to see what this fairy tale lake or cave looks like this year. So you can also do it, you and your kids. Of course, teachers may be involved, that's fine. So these are very small things, and there is a lot of magic behind it.
Ja bym dodała tylko jeszcze taką rzecz, od tego zaczynałam moje spotkanie w szkołach, że
when I went to schools, this is what we started our conversation. We can change the space around us. We just have to want it. We need to have will to do this. If we keep moving ahead, I think others will follow, because sometimes we never realize that there are so many other like-minded people who would like to do it. They will be identified once you communicate openly what you want to do. And of course, there were many skeptics saying kids will destroy it, they will ruin it, they will make it dirty. So I kept doing my thing until we succeeded. And yeah, that's the question of paint sometimes at school, because kids make walls dirty. That's why you need this special paint. And speaking about school administration, decision makers at school, because you know the same change at one school can be fine, can be very positive, but it doesn't have to be in another school. So sometimes I get parents text me and say, it was a great idea, kids use it, kids like it, while other parents from another school say, it's a mess, it's a big problem, it's all dirty. And you see the same tricks, the same ways, the same methods, but sometimes very different effects so that we can't predict. Well, of course, speaking about change, there are many different projects, ready-made projects that you can join. You can find sponsors, you can find organizations that support. You can also apply to Erasmus, to the Erasmus program, to do something else, but some of this money can be used to redesign your space. And Agata was talking about that school citizen budget mentioned last panel. I do encourage also schools to take part this year. The money has been allocated already, but there is a new edition coming up. And of course, a school can also set up its own NGO, and you can raise funds from elsewhere. If you take the example of elementary school number 28, they had this Laboratory of the Future project, and now the idea is to create an NGO and maybe make money out of it. So that's also an option to maybe fill some gaps. All right, any more comments from the room? Yeah, I also have a question. If we have had this research about where Polish students go at school, so where do students in Iceland go most in the school? What are the favorite places at school for students? Where are these secret corners?
Secret corners. The library, our schoolyard, sometimes our office. They are always welcome to come. And sometimes there are students that need to just come have a soda water or something, pet our little cat. We have this robot cat, so it's a place you can come to. But also we have this this space. What is it called? Námsverið.
It's for special education.
It's for special education, but we don't use it like that because all the children are welcome there. It's not only for just some more children or something like that. So we have a special teachers there, and if you just want to learn where you can be in smaller groups or where it's quiet, you can go there. And then we know that we are always trying to think about that the children they do not sit at the tables all the time. They can learn on the floor. They can learn in the home corners. They can be inside of the classroom or outside or inside. We use our schoolyard. We use our neighborhood. We use our museums, the gardens. We use our kirkjugarður, the cemetery. We use our cemetery for studies. So the there's a lots of different spaces. And we also, because we have these big dining halls, and we use that also. And because we are talking about the parents, we're always seeking opportunities to get the parents inside the school. So like in our school, every Friday there's a sing-along. And the parents come, and they are not supposed just to watch, they are participating. So we use these dining halls for many different things, for plays and lectures and breakfast in the mornings. Everyone can come and get this oatmeal porridge in the mornings. So, yeah.
Dziękuję.
Dzięki. To też jednoznacznie tutaj wynika, że pewnego
Okay, thank you. Great. This is so important to make this space diverse and offer different spaces actually under the same roof. And it's also very positive for your brain. You change places, you change the world around you, your setting. And referring to the workshop sessions that are going to start in a moment, space actually affects you. We absorb space through our senses. And these are stimuli that we accept or receive subconsciously. We don't know, we don't analyze how the color of a wall affects you, or how the color of light or noise affects you. And noise is what we particularly struggle with at school. Okay, I can see some of you say you are aware of how your senses work. So this is where perhaps we can change something. But now, speaking about colors, do you know, are you familiar with Miller-Baker pink? This is the color studied by American and German psychologists. It's a shade of pink that reduces aggression and violence. That's why they use this pink to paint prison cells for the most violent prisoners in America. So it shows that even color can have some kind of educational effect. So I believe that now you are full of positive energy to move ahead and change your spaces, your school spaces. Thank you all speakers for your contribution. Thank you, Małgorzata. And a very final thing to say, let's have lunch now, then workshop sessions. I can't see director with me, but this conference has been prepared by a big team of people representing different groups. We have teachers, parents, administration here. We have young people with us. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just I wanted to thank everyone for their contribution to this event. And yesterday, children did some mood boards. I'm not sure if they are dry, and if you want to have a look at those mood boards, you can go ahead. One mood board is a 3D structure, and the central part of it is Tamara, is the lady who gives out lunches at school. That's why, and she's a central figure for those students. That's why she's in the center of this mood board. Okay, enjoy your lunch. Thank you for being with us.